Mate, one of the things we talked back in January was live betting or in-play betting. Is that something? And I think you said that you had a bit of success at that time, but the sample size was way too small. Is there anything definitive that you've found there?
It is a scam when you don't allow everyone to operate on fair terms.
We are the Robin Hoods of sports betting. We take something back from the rich bookies and enable our customers to beat them instead.
The only thing I've been betting in play on is the only sport that I watch every single minute of every week, which is the UFC.
Yes.
But
how good's that? Have you been following the previews we've been doing of the UFC every now and then?
I haven't seen all of the pods now.
Mate, we've been getting. I don't know.
I'll rewatch them and I'll look at your picks and compare them to what I was betting and compare the results and send you a trophy if you did better than me.
No, you shouldn't listen. You shouldn't listen to me. It's more. We've been getting a guy called Ryan Bruno, and I don't know if you've seen him around. A smart sports trader.
Yeah, I actually seen one of the podcasts.
Yeah, so his MMA stuff is really sharp. So
yeah,
we've been getting him on before the big main events, and yeah, he's always got terrific insight. So we just did a live preview, I don't know, a couple of hours ago. So
oh really?
Yeah, and the funny thing is, so we get I don't know, have you seen our podcast with Haru too?
Oh no.
No, okay. So he's basically the same approach as you, like reading the markets and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting. Basically, every time I ask Brian like what he's thinking about a certain fight or what he's liking in terms of value and stuff like that, Haru will immediately back him up and say that's exactly what the market's doing too. So I think, I mean, we obviously talk about EPL every week on the preview podcast, but I mean EPL is just so hard to beat. So if I was, and it's just interesting because we get so much more people interested in listening to the EPL stuff. But if you want some actual like quality, like beating the market, I would say pretty definitively in MMA, like the stuff that he's coming up with in Haru, like it's very, very sharp.
Okay, yeah, no, that would be interesting to have a chat with him and see.
Yeah.
One of the guys I'm living with is also taking up MMA and is watching like, I don't know, 15, 20 hours of footage every week just to prepare for all of this, creating like, not models, but it's a way to start getting information down and knowing what to look for, but getting also a proper understanding of MMA. Because the UFC has developed so much since like, he was telling me some stats like in, I wonder if it was 1994 or anything. I don't know what kind of, how MMA looked like that back then. But then it was like 70% of the wins were submissions. Whereas this year it was like, I think it was 52% have gone to decision or 48 or something like that with 24, 27% KO.
Yeah.
So it's like,
because the skills difference, there's just the skills difference. I mean, back in the day, you had someone like Royce Gracie fighting, someone that's just basically just come out of his backyard to fight. You know what I mean? So, like,
I only know Kimbo Slice that was fighting in backyards and Masvidal.
Exactly. I mean, that's like your perfect example of like, someone that's been training jiu-jitsu like in his family lineage from, since he was born, compared to, I don't know, Kimbo Slice is the greatest example, but you had all sorts of guys coming on. Like, I mean, you just have to go and watch the footage of some of the fights you saw, like people that just had no experience in mixed martial arts, and they probably just, were good at bar fights and stuff like that.
It must have been extremely like one-sided. Like if you have an edge there, well, I don't know, they throw some fucking mean punches. So
yeah. Yeah, no, so I mean, that was going to be my next question is how has your MMA betting been going? Because I assume just, if you stand back and look at the market, you would think MMA is a lot more exploitable than a market like the Premier League or most European football leagues.
It is. Like, yeah, it's probably one of the softer markets these days. But I think if you're paying a close attention to what happens in play, that's where you can have a really big edge. But it's hard, of course, to get on big. But if you have it as like a hobby just to try to beat it, it's a good place to start if you enjoy watching UFC and also enjoy betting. Just look at what prices you can get and create an Excel sheet and keep track of how you're doing. But you won't be extremely wealthy betting in play MMA. But, you can make some money from it for sure. And if you're arbing, you can and have a good setup. You could arb so many opportunities in between the rounds, so you don't get, for example, all of a sudden there's a takedown and the whole market just gets suspended. And but you're able to get on one side, and probably it will be on the guy who got taken down that's going to be accepted. So you don't end up getting those negative free rolls.
Yeah, no, it's something that I've noticed too in the MMA live markets. It's crazy. I mean, you can the best example I remember was Masvidal and Usman. I mean, Usman was like 3 rounds in. I think Jorge maybe won the first round, but it was 3 rounds in. Jorge was gassing because he came in like the last week or two. And you could get 135, I think, for Usman with 2 rounds left. And
no way.
It was just so obvious how the fight was going to end up.
Okay, that sounds wrong, because I remember looking at that in play, and I think it was at one point. Yeah, he lost the first round. You are right.
Yeah, and then you could see like Masvidal's best chance was to win in the second round. In the first round. And then slowly you just saw Usman like completely start to dominate the fight. And by the end of the third round, you knew how the fourth and fifth would pan out.
Yeah, I just had to pull up the scorecard, but I remember looking at it like, yeah, he definitely lost the first round. But 2 of the judges gave the first round to Usman, actually.
Yeah, exactly.
And but if you look at, so I use MMAdecisions.com when I look at how the judges were scoring things, and they also have media scores. Media scores, I don't know. It's not every one of them are. I can say I agree with many or all of them scores, but the vast majority was 2 who had it 50-45, and like I'm just gonna guess 18 who had it 49-46. And it was very obvious that it was the first round they must have scored to Masvidal, because that was 81.2% of all of the voters have been voting for Masvidal in that first round.
Yeah.
So I remember, because the odds increased, but not by much on Usman up the first round. It went up to like 1.5.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I went in a bit more.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, anyone with any kind of MMA knowledge knew that, like, if it got to at least, after the first or second round, Usman's chances just like skyrocket. They're a lot better than 1.36, even though that's like a very low odds range. They're a lot better than that. So, I've noticed. The problem is obviously that you can't get the money down because the limits are, not more than 100 euros most of the time that I see. But
well, if you're using like ACR, or I think they're the same as BetCris, you can actually be betting like how much, like on some games you can bet like 20k a click in play. So they have absolutely massive lines on some of the fights. Other fights it could be like either to win or minimum stake of $500. So if an underdog is at 10, you can still get on like $500. But sometimes it's 1k, sometimes it's 1500, 5k, whatever. Depends on I guess the match.
Yeah.
But and there is also dynamic odds. So I don't think. Well, they are limiting some if you're using it solely for arbing, I think, but there's not much limiting going on there.
Yeah. No, it's really interesting. But I mean, you can still exploit the Asian markets too, I think, with MMA Live.
There's not too many who has too much in play there. I think Pinnacle has like a couple of $100 you can bet.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine for people like me, mate, but maybe not.
Okay, sorry. Like, I don't... Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean it like that. But
no, I can give a shit.
But in a way, it's good, because that means also you're gonna get away some of the sharker people, unless they're using some kind of program that has access to all of the books. If they get like APIs from all of the bookmakers they can, and some of them have dynamic pricing, they're just going to put in their minimum price and smash everything above, which means like Pinnacle can all of a sudden go from 2.6 to 1.9 if they're just smashing it every single click down to 1.9. So
yeah, no, it's very interesting. So are there any, other than live betting MMA, is there any other trends you notice in MMA that maybe in opening prices or anything like that that you like the look of at the moment?
No, I don't do that much study. I just follow whatever people are saying, and trust the people, trust my network in a way.
Yeah. Okay.
And
No, it's a fascinating sport, and you wonder like I mean they've really reaped the benefits of COVID, because they've been basically, like you would almost say, the leading US sport for a long time before NBA and NFL came back.
Yeah,
they were smashing it. I mean, I was it what pay-per-view was it where, I mean, the latest Adesanya one was huge, but I think it was Jorge and Masvidal and Usman was I'm pretty sure they like broke lots of records with that one too. Like it was just humongous, which is saying a lot, because Usman has never drawn anyone ever.
it's interesting it's a lot of UFC talk here now, but it's interesting with UFC now, and with all the young guns coming up and all the people, how skilled some of these new people are. And look at the Swede, or there's 2 Swedes, I guess, now coming up. So Kutatelatsa, I'm not sure if I pronounced that correctly, but he was fighting the last week or something against this Polish guy, and he was at like 3.5, but he was just insanely high skilled. Everything he did was just top class. And even after he won, he was like giving the other guy credit that he didn't do enough and he should have won the fight. But
oh yeah, that's right, yeah, that one.
But everyone seemed to disagree with that on their scorecards, even online. Yeah. And maybe I was biased, but I also disagreed.
Yeah, but the one other one you were obviously going to refer to is Chimaev.
Yeah, of course. He is.
I think what's
Finnish.
happening now is that it's obviously such a. Oh, is he Finnish?
No. It's not too Swedish. Unfortunately, gotta give it to the Swedes.
No, I've lost my train of thought, but that's what I was going to say. One thing I've noticed is that obviously the sport's been around for long enough now that people that were born, in the 90s or the early 2000s, when they've been growing up, now they've started training mixed martial arts at the age of maybe 5 or 6 or 7, so they're able to make their professional debuts, and they've got 10-15 years of experience behind them, whereas back in the day they might have only been doing it for a couple of years before they made it to the UFC. So they're well-rounded now.
Solely had like a kickboxing experience or Muay Thai or whatever it might be, Sambo, but of course most people are going to be specializing in one of the what was it called, fighting genres or
martial arts.
Yeah, one of those things, and then instead of having a whole specter. But it's interesting. There's been a new change also in the scoring. If you're having top control, it doesn't matter that much anymore. It's more about how much damage that's taken. Not that I think it's gonna impact Khabib though, because he is not just sitting on top riding a rodeo when he's on top.
No, exactly. But it's the rule changes. I mean, it's so hard because sometimes they're just, because they're only using them in certain jurisdictions, it can just get so confusing as to who's using what. So as a bettor, it's very hard to follow.
Yeah, I feel like I got pretty robbed in one fight. But
yeah.
It's been some horrible scoring in UFC, which is the only annoying thing. Which is like, I even tweeted out to Joe Rogan
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was complaining about this one thing because I think they should score it differently. Instead of having like one judge can basically one judge can score it the whole fight, but not the whole fight. You need two judges, but you should score it round by round instead, and nobody should know how anyone scores any round. And then you, instead of saying judge by judge, you score them round by round. So first round, if two judges has it 10-9 and one has it 9-10, so then you would give it to the first fighter. Because so many times you could see like, a fighter can on paper win 2 rounds by the majority of the judges, but he can still lose the fight, which I don't think is fair, because that means he won 2 rounds and still lost the fight.
Yeah.
Because the judges disagreed which round, or if it was a close round, whatever. I think they could do a whole lot with that scoring system, and scoring it round by round. So each judge scores a round, you add up the scoring, and then you give the round to someone, goes on to next round, goes on to third round. I think it could be fun also if they say round 1, say the score, round 2, give the score, and round 3, give the score, instead of saying,
yeah.
And also another thing that's pretty fucking annoying is when they read up the scorecard in the UFC, whoever gets called out first is always the loser if it's split decision.
Not
95%.
always.
95%.
That's just variance, mate.
No, that's no variance. I start celebrating if my fighter doesn't get called out first, because then I know it's a split decision and I won it.
What? Okay. No, there's a scoring system. Just I think the biggest thing is obviously you need to get the right people in there. I mean, some of the people that are allowed to judge are just complete nobodies and they've got no idea. So I think you'd want to start with maybe getting some coaches or ex-fighters in there, people that are, actual experts.
Definitely.
And then secondly, I think the scoring system is just it's so bad. Like, there's only 2 possible outcomes every round. It's either a 10-9 or a 10-8. Like, you can't judge how dominant someone is off 2 different scores. It should be on maybe like a 5-point scale or something like that. And you can say, like, if it's 5, you get 5 if you win the round. If you win it by a lot, then maybe it's like a 5-2 or something like that. And if it's, a slight win, a 5-4, or maybe there are rounds where there's nothing that splits them. What's wrong with giving 5-5?
Okay, I do like your thought there, but it also will make the fights a lot more boring, because people can't give it all in the first rounds. They need to, what can I say, hold back their gas tank, in lack of better words. Because if you can lose a round with 5 points, even after winning 5-3 the first 2 rounds, and you're completely gassed out, well, then you're probably going to get KO'd often. So, but you get my point. Like, you can be marginally ahead in the first 2 rounds.
So if you dominate the first round, say
the first 2 rounds, but you use a lot of energy, and then you get dominated in the last. But you clearly won round 1 and 2.
Mm.
So you just need to avoid the KO.
But you can still do that with this system. You can still 9-10-9 and then cruise
10-8. Well, okay. Maybe you have a point. Maybe my point wasn't valid. Okay, but I think it's something in there. I'm gonna give it a second thought and come back to you.
No, this is funny, mate. We just spent more time talking about how MMA should be as a sport rather than any betting stuff. I love it. It's good stuff.
Okay.
It's good to talk about MMA in general, because there's not many people out there that follow it. So
put it in captions so everyone who doesn't give a fuck about MMA can just fast forward.
Yeah, exactly. I'll make sure there's some timestamps on this one.